This is Princess Royal Harbour and Albany, Western Australia, on its 150th birthday. And the brig Amity, or rather a faithful reproduction of this tiny vessel which brought Major Edmund Lockyer and the first European settlers from Sydney to land on this very spot on Boxing Day 1826. The Amity, the focal point of Albany's Sesquicentenary celebrations in 1977. One 150 years is a long time, certainly in a country as young as Australia, and the year 1977 was the year when tens of thousands of people literally took the trip back to Albany on Western Australia's south coast. For it was on January the 21st, 1827, that Major Edmund Lockyer formally claimed the western part of the continent for the British Crown. He had arrived in King George Sound from Sydney town in the brig Amity on Christmas Day 1826 and came ashore on Boxing Day, a day which from now on is certain to be known as Amity Day in Albany. And that's where the story starts. Amity Day 1976, 150 years to the day since Major Lockyer's party came ashore. It signalled the start of Albany's 150th anniversary celebrations, probably the biggest, most eventful year in the district's history as the first settlement in what is now the state of Western Australia. And what a scene it was. Thousands of people under a cloudless summer sky assembled to celebrate a century and a half of formal settlement, Frederickstown, or as it very soon became, Albany. And among the crowd was one of Major Lockyer's great-grandsons, Mr. Nicholas Lockyer, and his wife, who came from Brisbane for the celebrations.
I suppose this must be a rather special occasion for you, coming here for Amity Day, as we call it. What has it meant to you, really?
It's meant a great deal, because it was a very important part of my great-grandfather's career, and it's delightful to be able to come back and share in the celebrations here today.
And I guess you feel the same about this, Mrs. Lockyer, do you?
Well, I certainly do. It's certainly, I think, the first opportunity any Lockyer wife has ever had to participate in a landing with the Lockyer gentleman. Usually they've been left behind for obvious reasons. It's very important to me to be here too.
Have you always been very interested in the life and the activities of Major Lockyer?
Yes, indeed, we have. My grandfather and my father have kept quite accurate records of all these things, and my great-grandfather was an explorer in the Brisbane region too, so his total exploration career has always been of great interest to us.
Yes, was there any special part of his career that interested you most?
Well, I think undoubtedly the voyage here in this quite tiny vessel, really, it was a very significant achievement, particularly as it represented more or less the British claiming the whole of Australia in one piece and keeping it away from our French friends.
Yeah.
But in the lives of men and women,
Australians have a reputation for informality, and informality was the keynote of celebrations on Amity Day. Crowds enjoyed hour after hour of almost non-stop open-air activity. After all, it was a birthday party, wasn't it? Open to all comers, and birthday parties are to be enjoyed. But even birthday parties have their formal moments when tributes are paid and the occasion is properly recognised. So it was on Amity Day. It opened with a service of thanksgiving, with a lesson being read by the Mayor of Albany, Mr. Harold Smith.
He does not punish us as we deserve, or repay us for our sins and wrongs. As high as the sky is above the earth, so great is his love for those who fear him.
And by the Premier of Western Australia, Sir Charles Court.
Mercy to us, I appeal to you. Offer yourselves as a living sacrifice to God, dedicated to his service and pleasing to him. This is the true worship that you should offer. Do not conform yourselves to the standards of this world, but let God transform you inwardly.
Bishop of Albany, the Right Reverend Warwick Bastian.
And of men, calls to be our progenitors in this our area.
And then there was the singing of hymns, dancing to a religious theme by boys from a Roman Catholic college, all merging in an impressive thanksgiving for a century and a half of progress.
It's a wonderful day for us, and Lady Court and I are deeply moved at what's been done. We're very appreciative of this presentation, sir.
And then came the presentations of commemorative medallions and historic documents.
Very appreciative.
Mayor Harold Smith and his good wife Doris, distinguished guests and citizens of Albany. Firstly, I would like to read these letters to you because my great-grandfather was very much involved also in the early exploration of the Brisbane area.
It was Major Edmund Lockyer who founded the town of Albany.
But the focal point of the celebrations is without doubt the brig Amity, or rather a somewhat remarkable reproduction of the original brig of that name, which brought the first settlers to Albany and ended an otherwise undistinguished life in the storm-lashed waters off northern Tasmania. On Amity Day 1976, the new Amity was commissioned by the Premier Sir Charles Court.
It's a wonderful thing to reflect on occasions, and what better time than when we celebrate the 150th anniversary of Albany, when those very strong souls came here and endured the elements to get here and established what was then a settlement and to become a great town and a great part of this western third of Australia.
But of course, the new Amity didn't just happen. It was the brainchild of Albany resident Mrs. Mavis Waterson and built by Albany boat builder Mr. Stan Austin. Needless to say, Mrs. Waterson and Mr. Austin were there on Amity Day to see an idea become a reality.
Mrs. Waterson, yours was the mind behind the whole idea of recreating the Amity here. What gave you the idea, really?
Well, at the time when I thought of the idea, there were moves afoot to have a naval vessel paid off at Albany as a tourist attraction, and I felt that this really wouldn't attract people half as much as something that had a relationship to Albany's history. And so I suggested that the vessel that brought the first settlers to Albany should be recreated.
Well, now that it's been completed, or almost completed, and a focal point of our Sesquicentenary celebrations, how do you feel?
Very thrilled. I think Mr. Austin's done a wonderful job, and it's far beyond my expectations, and I'm just very proud of it.
Well, let's turn to Mr. Austin now. Stan, you had a great deal to do with building the new Amity. Did you strike very many difficulties with it?
We didn't strike a great deal of difficulty. One of the main troubles was the unavailability of seasoned timber at short notice, and also having to produce a plan of the vessel in about 2 months, which is pretty short time for such a project.
Of course, you didn't have any plans to start off with, did you?
No, we had no plans, only a few measurements, and we had to not exactly guess it was, but to research far and wide to find out what a vessel of that era would look like.
To what extent, Stan, did you use the techniques of another century in recreating the Amity?
Well, we did have quite a large collection of old shipwright's tools that I'd inherited from my father, who was a boat builder and shipwright before me, and we used them at the beginning of this project until time became very important and we switched to more modern methods, such as chainsaws and electric gear.
Well, I suppose it could be said then that you combined the old and the new in recreating the Amity.
Yes, that's right.
And what commissioning would be complete without the smashing of the traditional bottle across the ship's bows?
Amity.
And at the moment of commissioning, thousands of balloons suddenly climbed on the wind into the blue. But Amity Day wasn't to be all ceremony and formality. The large crowd which converged on Major Lockyer Park on the harbour foreshore sunned itself in the golden weather which almost seemed to be made to order for the start of Albany's Sesquicentenary celebrations. Night brought on the Sound and Light Spectacular, and former Albany High School boy, international pop recording star Ross Ryan, came back home to be part of the celebration.
We sent you a racehorse for Christmas. See the thoughts that surround you. I want to look inside your head to do.
Left Morse Bay, Cape Good Hope, with the Chatham, as also the Albemarle.
There was the Sound and Light reenactment of Major Lockyer's landing at King George Sound, the rowing of a boat across one of the tidal ponds near the Residency, the sound of oars in the darkness, and the appearance of the boat as it nosed towards the bank. And the uniformed figures leaping ashore, some of them not without a little difficulty, to make the official landing. 150 years to the day. Albany, 1976. A fine town, and if some of the early settlers had had their way, it may well have become the state capital. After all, Western Australia, as we know it today, started here at Frederickstown, or Albany as it is now, the southern port, the holiday centre, the tourist resort, the commercial centre for a productive hinterland, and for many people, the wonderful retirement town. Looking at this handsome southern town today, on its 150th anniversary, spread between two rugged granite hills, with its generous spread of some of the most beautiful coastal scenery in the world, or as the Albany song puts it, there's scenery there that will really catch your breath. It's come a long, long way in those 150 years from the peaceful wooded shoreline, first seen from the deck of the old Amity and represented in watercolours attributed to Major Lockyer himself. Albany's full of the fine old architecture of the past. The town hall, built in 1887 from granite quarried from the slopes of Mount Clarence, the slabs hauled the hard way by horse-drawn wagons down the steep tracks to the site. The Residency, official residence of Albany magistrates for more than 80 years. The century-old post office building, used for the district's postal services until the 1960s, and still in use as a cultural centre and as a recreation club for visiting seamen. Beautiful Lawley Park, itself a place of historic significance, with its now silent cannon overlooking Princess Royal Harbour. But what historic building of all the grand old buildings in Albany's 150 years has more old world charm than the old farm Strawberry Hill, the scene of two important celebrations in 1977, the open-air drama readings, Tributaries, in January, and the colourful costumed garden party in April. History tells us, though, that it was the residence of Sir Richard Spencer, RN, government resident in 1836. The old farm is now controlled by the National Trust, and thousands of visitors to the south coast every year walk through its rooms, furnished authentically in the tradition of the times, and tourists enjoy walks through the leafy grounds of the lovely old property. One of the official features of the Sesquicentenary program was a town picnic at Ayr Park. The period costumes were there again, and at least one piece of period transport too. Family groups ate picnic lunches on the lawns. A band played, there was a kite flying competition, or people could simply stroll and watch the fun, including competitive sports for the youngsters. And then, of course, Harry Secombe came to town for Albany's birthday. The foremost goon, assuming his famous singing role this time, entertained a capacity audience in the Centennial Oval Hall, and then next day joined the ranks of other famous visitors and went aboard the Amity. Here he faced a radio interview conducted under very trying conditions, swarms of flies and a jostling crowd, eager to get within range.
Can I explain to you about the local pronunciation of this place? Albany instead of Albany? Yeah?
Albany, why is that? Because we say Albany.
Oh, I think it's just the Australian way of saying it, that's all.
I thought it was from the wreck of the Hesperus.
I don't.
Watched on the burning deck when Albany had fled.
I don't know about that. You've come to the country, you've done us the privilege of coming down here and entertaining us.
It's an honour to be here.
I believe that you had quite a big crowd for your concert last night.
It was full, yes. The first 3 rows of sheep.
Sheep, were they? What was that for?
No, it was great. It's a marvellous place. They call, they'll make fun of it. They say it's Albany Opera House, but the acoustics are very good in there.
Yes, you were quite satisfied with them.
Yeah, indeed.
Yes.
Loosen the roof a bit. But
you know, some of the people would have come more than 100 miles to hear you last night.
Would they really? Oh, great. Well, I hope they got the money's worth, that's all.
Yes.
I don't think they didn't they?
I wonder whether you know that we have the only land-based whaling station in Australia here.
I knew about that. I told the mayor last night.
Yes. It's a pity you can't have a look at it, but I don't suppose you've got time.
Well, I come from Wales anyway, so I'm used to them.
Oh, dear me. Our celebrations this week are bringing another international star here in the person of Lester Piggott, you know.
Oh, so I believe, yes.
Yes.
Not running a whale.
Do you make a practice of getting out of the capital cities very much? This is an exception.
Oh, I always get away if I can.
Yes. Yes.
But I think it's nicer to play places where people don't get much entertainment. Obviously, and you get such a marvellous reception. People are very receptive and warm.
Yes.
The local Welsh Society turned out in force to greet one of Wales' most famous sons, and Harry Secombe, as irrepressible offstage as he is on it, was soon wisecracking his way through the crowd to the Amity gangway. Albany's second day of history in the opening weeks of the Sesquicentenary year was Proclamation Day, January the 21st, the day in 1827 when Major Lockyer held a flag-raising ceremony and formally established a settlement. And again, as for Amity Day, the crowds turned out for a great parade of people in period costume, some 1,500 of them, maybe more, moving in a long column down York Street to the Parade Street Oval, Foundation Park, headed by the Stirling City Band and state and civic dignitaries. And as the procession swung into the Parade Street ground, there was already a crowd building up, people from all round the district, but tourists too, all caught up in the pageantry of the occasion. Here, 150 years ago to the day, almost to the minute, on this spot, the historic ceremony took place. Uniforms always lend tremendous atmosphere to these occasions, and these uniforms were those of the Albany Sea Cadets. The Stirling City Band, which led the parade, came to Albany specially for the occasion, and it honoured the large crowd with a band arrangement of Albany's 150th anniversary song. His Excellency the Governor of Western Australia, Air Vice Marshal Sir Wallace Kyle and Lady Kyle were the guests of honour for the Proclamation Day celebrations. Appropriately too, the vice-regal couple arrived at the park in a horse-drawn carriage, and the formalities were opened by Albany's Mayor, Mr. Harold Smith.
As it is generally known today, is a matter of history. And we have already celebrated the commencement of our 150th anniversary on the 26th of December 1976.
His Excellency the Governor spoke about the great traditions of the Albany district and the significance of this day in the history of Western Australia.
The life of our West Australian community began 150 years ago.
And the Albany Shire President, Mr. Haddon Hood, concluded the formal programme as he addressed the gathering.
Today, Proclamation Day.
A plaque set in granite and unveiled by the Governor is a permanent testimony to the historic events of January the 21st, 1827 and 1977. Then there was the artillery salute and the traditional volley fired by the soldiers, as it had been 150 years before.
There we go. We're off and racing in the first race already.
In the afternoon, Albany's Proclamation Day celebrations moved to the racecourse for the Albany Racing Club's 150th Racing Cup meeting. And what a race meeting it turned out to be. Magnificent weather, a very large crowd, everybody very much in a carnival spirit, and of course, a tremendous draw card from the United Kingdom, the man who's ridden the winners of no less than 6 English derbies, and some 3,000 other winners in a remarkable career, Lester Piggott. And in much less formal surroundings, His Excellency the Governor arrives at the course for an afternoon's relaxation. That is, if public figures are ever able to relax whenever they appear in public, even at the races.
And we'll be introduced to the President of the Albany Racing Club. Very, very nice indeed.
Looking back on that race meeting and Lester Piggott's rush trip to Albany to ride in the 150th anniversary race meeting, few people in the big crowd would have realised the effort that was made to ensure that Piggott not only got to Albany on time, but that he was also in Singapore a few hours later to take a mount in a race meeting there the following day. It seems that the only way Lester Piggott could make it to Singapore after his Albany rides was for the Qantas flight out of Perth that evening to be put back 1 hour, and for Piggott to be flown from Albany to Perth by a privately owned jet aircraft to connect with the international flight. Impossible? Maybe, to anyone but Albany Promotion Officer Brian Lawrence, to whom an impossible situation is merely one that takes a little longer to solve. But there was another problem: customs clearances. Not to worry, arrangements were made for a customs officer to fly to Albany in the private jet and clear Lester Piggott on the flight back to Perth, ready to board his flight for Singapore without a moment's delay. And there he is, leaving the racecourse on the first leg of a very tight schedule. Amity Day, Proclamation Day, and now Royal Visit Day. It was a happy coincidence that 25 years of Queen Elizabeth's reign brought her to Australia in Albany's 150th anniversary year. And here at the charming colonial home known as Hillside Lodge, the royal couple lunched with about 100 district residents before driving through the centre of the town to the harbour foreshore and the Amity. As was the case throughout the Australian tour, the Queen used every opportunity to meet the people, stopping every so often to speak to someone in the crowd. That's what made this royal tour mean so much to people. It wasn't just a matter of lining the route of the royal progress to catch a fleeting glimpse of the royal visitors as they drove by. It was the all-important matter of being there and seeing it all happen. And who knows, it might be that the Queen or Prince Phillip might just happen to stop near you and even exchange a few words. And Major Lockyer Park, for the third time in 3 months, was thronged with people. Some of them, lining the ropes, had travelled hundreds of kilometres and had been there since early morning. And they had waited. And this, at last, was their big moment. How fitting it was for the Queen to be welcomed on the deck of the Amity, that imaginative focal point of this entire Sesquicentenary celebration. Albany's Mayor, Mr. Harold Smith, makes his speech of welcome.
Your Majesty, it is my privilege to speak for the people of Albany in welcoming Your Majesty and Your Royal Highness to our town. No words of mine are needed to express the deep affection we and all Australians feel for you personally.
Then the moment came for Her Majesty's response.
Mr. Mayor, we are most grateful for the warm and friendly welcome given to us today by you and the people of Albany.
Her Majesty has one more official duty to perform in her brief 2-hour visit to the town, the unveiling of a plaque on the stone wharf to which the brig is permanently moored. An inspection of the Residency Museum now, and the Queen, not to be hurried in maintaining an official schedule, made it very clear indeed that it was the people she'd come to meet, and she meant to meet as many of them as possible. And the crowd thrilled to this clear demonstration of Her Majesty's interest in those who had come so far and waited so long in threatening weather to see her and to admire her regal grace and personal charm. All too soon, the royal visit to Albany was over. A word of farewell at the entrance of the Residency, and then the drive to the airport by way of Centennial Oval. There, crowds of schoolchildren had waited for their moment to arrive, the Queen and Prince Phillip greeting them from an open car. And suddenly, the royal visit was over. A memorable few hours which added lustre to an already momentous sesquicentenary year. So these major events in the celebration of 150 years of formal settlement in the western third of a great continent were truly momentous events. Events which etched Albany's name very firmly in the minds of so many people throughout Australia and overseas too.
Take the trip back to Albany. There's scenery that'll really catch your breath. White sand beaches stretch for miles, and the smiles of the people that you meet there will linger in your memories. Albany, take the trip back.
Take the trip back was the slogan which brought thousands of people to this magnificent South Coast setting. And to use the Governor's words on Proclamation Day,
The
that many of the others survived only for a few years. But Albany has survived with honor, and it has progressed in good health, with proud memories of the past and high hopes for the future. And that indeed is the real measure of survival.
To